Today, we would look at more advanced concepts in JavaScript, and we would introduce DOM manipulation in JavaScript today. Right before this lecture, reading data or values have been done either by dialog boxes or by console.logging data using our inspect element tool. But now, for the first time, in this course, I am going to introduce us to DOM manipulation. So with DOM manipulation, instead of outputting our data in the console tool or in a dialog box, we could actually output our data in a HTML, CSS format in our document. So what is DOM manipulation? The acronym DOM stands for Document Object Model, and it is an application programming interface API for HTML and XML documents. It defines the logical structure of documents and the way a document is accessed and manipulated. So say for instance, on our screen here, I already have two classes defined. Okay? So on this one, I would like to add a class to it or remove a class from it. The process is called DOM. I'll say for instance, this class is an HTML class and it doesn't have the content in it. With JavaScript, I could append the content in it, I could remove the content from it. That is called DOM manipulation because I am changing the way the content is initially on the HTML page. So on the DOM manipulation, I personally categorize this into 3 sections. The first section is the selectors. The second one is classes. The third one is content. And the last one is styles. Now please bear with me. I categorize this under these sections so that it's quite easier for us to understand. They are not ideally classified under this section, but I do so we could easily get the whole explanation of DOM manipulation. There are thousands and one ways to manipulate a content with JavaScript. We could do that by already defined function, or we could write ours. But in this section, I would cover only but a few important ways to manipulate in our code. So the first one I will talk about is the selectors. So what is selectors? With selectors, I can select a particular element or HTML class in my HTML document. Say for instance, I want to just select this element. I would use document.querySelector, and right here, I would pipe in the name of the class as a string. So in this case, I would just enter container since we're targeting this, closing with my semicolon. Just before my semicolon, I could add a lot of methods or functions in this way. This is called JavaScript chaining execution. Okay, so say for instance, I have a li and a link right here. I could target this more specifically with JavaScript by including the li and a just like so. And for instance, say I want to target an ID. What do? I'm just going to use the hash symbol to indicate that this is an ID. If you look correctly, you would see that the querySelector JavaScript method allows us to target elements or objects just like they are in CSS. So say for instance, I want to target an ID having an li or a element. I would do it just like so. Same case we have with our CSS. Okay. The most preferable method you would see around in JavaScript is the document.getElement by ID method. This method accepts just ID parameters in string name without the dot or hash symbol indicating it's a class or ID, because the getElement by ID method accepts just ID. So say for instance, I have this ID. I'm just going to copy the name right there, pipe it as a string, and that's all. I have targeted this. Okay. So before we actually do anything or add anything or manipulate anything in JavaScript, we need to select what we want to do to it. So like I said, I categorize this under these 4 categories to make explanation more easier. And the first one, we talked about selectors. There are more ways to select item than these 2 I mentioned. There is in fact document.getElements by class names. But from records, the document.getElement by ID and document.querySelector is by far the fastest. So in this regard, I'm going to be talking about classes. With JavaScript, we could toggle add, edit, or remove classes on the fly. So say for instance, I'm just going to copy out this and put it right there. So guess what I want to do? I want to select this class, and just at the li, I want to add a class to this li. Fascinating, right? Now I want you to watch closely again. I have this div class container right here, and I have a li with an ref right here. And I want to target this class to get to the li, and just at the li, I want to add a class, say new class right here with JavaScript. So here is how I do it. I'm going to select the element, which is document.querySelector, the container, and .li. And just right here, I'm going to use the method called classList.add. And here I'm going to pipe the name of the class list I want to add. In this regard, I'm going to say new star. So if I reload this on my browser, and hit on my inspect element tool and go to container, go to class, something seemed to be wrong somewhere. So I'm just going to hit on the console element tool, and I see type error, not enough arguments. Okay. So I would need to remove or comment out these functions so we could see our code run well. So there's no error in the console log. And if I check, I have the class new star right here. So with JavaScript, I could change the class, or I could add a class to this element. So say for instance, I want to remove the class or remove a class. So this time I am going to create a class called new style. And now I am going to target the new style right here because I want to remove new style. So this way I created a class and I want to remove the class. So how I do it is by adding the remove method. So the first method was to add and the second is to remove. So this way I'm just going to comment this out so we could always reference it. So if I reload this on my browser and check the container class, I discovered that the new style probably still exists. That's because we won't be adding the dot notation when doing this. So this way, we'll check that the li class has no class name and it's kind of empty, to be precise. We could add, remove, and we could also toggle. Say for instance, the toggle function checks if there's a class already existing with such name, and if there's no class existing with such name, it's going to add. But if there's a class existing with such name, it's going to remove it. So this way, we would use the toggle. Okay, in this illustration, we already have a class named new style. So we want to check if there is a class in it. If surely there's a class in it, it is going to remove. if there is no class in it, it is going to add. So if I reload this on my browser, I would notice that the li class is still empty because I have a class new style already. Okay, let's say for example, don't have a class. So if I reload this on my browser, I am going to see I have new style right there. Fascinating, right? The next I'm going to talk about is content. Okay, say I want to add a content to the ref in this case right here. So how do I do that? For this example, I'm going to comment this out and just move to content. Remember, you always need the selectors. You need to select your element. So I'm going to go right there quickly. Document.query selector, which is my favorite. And here I'm going to pipe what I want to select. So this way, I want to select the container, the li, and the a to be more specific. So I am going to pipe in dot container, li, and a. So this way, I'm going to write just some text content inside the li, the ref in the li. There are two ways to write content in JavaScript. The first way is the inner HTML way, and the second way is the text content way. They are both almost the same, just that the inner HTML way allows HTML attributes, while the text content way does not allow HTML attributes. So I'm just going to comment the text content way, so we'll see the inner HTML in action. So this way, I'm just going to write something. So what are we expecting to see? We're expecting to see an h1 tag in an ref right there. So if I reload this, I have this. Now, if you look closely, you will check that our h1 is wrapped already in an ref link. This we could use in cases where we want to add a text to a link or anything we want, perhaps a text in a div box or a text in an image or just anything we want. So this way, we have this class already added with JavaScript. Let's check out and see how the text content method operates. Permit me to add an equal to sign there. So I will comment this and uncomment this out for us to see clearly. So here, I'm going to write text content to make it look kind of different from the inner HTML method. So if I reload this, I have text content and the h1 HTML attributes are regarded as text. The text content doesn't allow any HTML attribute inside, but the inner HTML does. So the text content allows just plain text and numbers. So this way, you could use this when you want to be more precise about the type that enters into our code. And the last way I'm going to talk about is the styles way of DOM manipulation. So say I want to make this text colored, or I want to make it blue, or I have a text here and I want to do some style, just like I do in CSS. I could use the style method in JavaScript to do just so. So in this regard, I am just going to add a button for more clarity. So I am going to write click me for the button. I will comment this out so we'll focus on the styles method. Remember, if you ever want to start anything in JavaScript on DOM manipulation, you always need to start with a selector. So there I will copy just the selector would need. So in this regard, we are going to need the button. And just right here, I'm going to use the method .style and the property I want to. I'd like to quickly introduce us to camel casing. Say for instance, I want to write or I want to change background of my button. Or just a minute, let's see how this turns out in our browser. In our browser already, I have click me as a button. So what I want to do to this button is to make it quite big, increase the font width, and also remove border from it and change the background color. So in CSS, we would write background color as background color. But in JavaScript, we use what is called the camel casing. We'd use background color, where the dash between the background and color is going to be replaced by making the nearest or the first alphabet after the dash to be a capital letter. So in this way, I am just going to say the query selector, the style, the first, the color, which we want to change, and next, it's going to be as a string. So say we want the color to be red, and let's reload on our browser. If we reload on our browser, we would find that we didn't change this to be container. So if I reload this, I have the red just right there. So I'm just going to do this real quick without you following, and at the end of the day, I'm going to show you the end result of building this. Just behind the scene, I have created some styles to style our button for us. And voila, we have a very beautiful button right here. Sorry I did that behind the scene. You could always copy these styles or pause the video to check on these styles again if you were lost in any aspect or if you don't understand any aspect of it. I had to cut this out due to the time frame of the video. It was getting too long. So if you notice clearly, you would see we have background here and we have C. We replace that with the hyphen we should have had in CSS with a capital C. We had padding, we had font family, we had font size, we had border, we have font width and text align. Just the way we would see on CSS. So with this, I end the class or this lecture on JavaScript DOM manipulation. And next, we're going to be checking on event listeners in JavaScript.